I'm sorry, I got cut off. So Madero is going to lead the Mexican Revolution, and he's kind of leading it because you have this dictator who's really controlling society in a very tight and abusive way, and it's because the landowners are pretty much controlling him. And so what ends up happening is Zapata is going to go ahead and lead some land reforms. By the early 1900s, the United States is starting to increase its power. The United States is no longer a baby country. By the 1870s, 1890s, the United States has grown considerably. It is the North American continent, the 48 continental states. They've gotten Alaska. They purchased it from Russia. Hawaii will become a part of the United States in 1898. The United States has fought the Spanish-American War, and in the Spanish-American War, the United States is going to get Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. And Guam is an island in the Pacific. Same thing with the Philippines, and then Puerto Rico is, of course, in the Latin American Caribbean area. And the United States will also get Cuba's freedom during the Spanish-American War. So the United States is really gaining a lot of power and prestige, and so they're going to start exercising that control over Latin America, particularly certain presidents. So you're going to have different presidents that are going to lead some different kind of aggressive, and sometimes maybe not as aggressive, policies in Latin America. So the rise of the United States, so we get industrialization and urbanization. I'm not going to really focus a whole lot on the U.S. for the simple fact that the AP World exam is really going to be focusing on more than the United States. So the industrialization and urbanization after the Civil War, after President Lincoln has fought and won the Civil War, and he did it thanks to the Industrial Revolution here in the United States. He uses the telegraph, he uses the railroads, he uses all that factory stuff, all the stuff that's been created to win the war and preserve the United States of America. By 1900, the United States has become an industrial power, the world's greatest. The United States was producing stuff for everybody, and everybody was buying our stuff. There are extremes, though, of the wealth. When you look at who actually controlled most of the wealth in this country, it was people like Andrew Carnegie, who controlled the steel industry. Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, who controlled Standard Oil Company, and he refined pretty much all the oil in the United States. Cornelius Vanderbilt, who also controls the railroads, because Carnegie is going to control railroads, and the fact that he'll control steel, because Andrew Carnegie will do steel. So these guys, just a few guys, actually own pretty much all of America. So you're looking at 9% own 70% of the wealth in this nation, and that's going to be bad if you are one of their workers, because they pretty much abuse and use their workers left and right. And unions are going to make a rise in the United States just like they did in other places, and they're going to want the three betters: better pay, better hours, better working conditions. So what you're going to start seeing here in the United States is a demand for reform, and that's called the progressive reform. So progress, move forward. And so what some people in America want is they want the President of the United States to start really changing the business world. They're sick and tired of this 9% owning pretty much everything. I mean, think about it. If 9% of the country owns this much wealth, if they make a bad call, everybody else is going to be pretty screwed. And so this is the danger with monopolies and trust. And a monopoly is where you own all aspects of production, and trust are where you own one part of production. So Andrew Carnegie has a monopoly. He owns all aspects of the steel industry from floor up. Everything that goes into the process of making steel, he owns. Now Rockefeller is going to own a trust. He owns just the oil refineries. He doesn't own the oil wells. He doesn't own any of that. He doesn't dig for it. It's just that the people who are digging for the oil and pumping it out of the ground, they got to go to him before the oil is actually worth anything. And he'll refine it so that you can use it in the internal combustion engine that Henry Ford will use for the car. So Teddy Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson, there's some progressive presidents you need to know. Teddy Roosevelt is, he's a gung-ho guy. That's the nice way to put it. Teddy is a very aggressive, and he believes in flexing your muscles. So because the United States is going to flex our muscles under him, we'll have the Roosevelt Corollary, in which we tell Latin America and the Caribbeans, if you owe the United States money, you better make good on the payment, because if you don't, the United States Navy is going to be in your backyard tomorrow. So Teddy is going to increase the United States Navy, and he'll have the Great White Fleet. And that's the United States Navy becoming a modern fleet. The United States Navy is going to be as good as the British Navy. It'll be its rival. And Woodrow Wilson is going to believe in moral or missionary diplomacy, and he believes that you should teach people how to be good followers of democratic governments. And so it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of condescending, but Wilson believes it's the right way to be, and Woodrow Wilson's very, very idealistic. He believes in these high-minded morals that most people could never live up to. And so when he does his imperialism policies, he's going to be a president who tries to teach people how to be democracies, whereas Teddy kind of rules by the fist. When you look at the progressive reforms, Teddy will break up trust, and he will pass the FDA, the Pure Food and Drug Administration. Woodrow Wilson will pass the 16th through the 19th Amendment. So the 16th, the graduated income tax. The 17th is the direct election of senators. The 18th is prohibition of alcohol. And then the 19th is women's suffrage. They're important presidents in American history, just because of the time periods that they live in. They live in during this progressive reform when America is cleaning up domestic issues, but they also are presidents when we become an imperial power, a world power. So when the United States becomes a world power, we expand into the Pacific. The Samoan Islands, the Hawaiian Islands, they're going to become ours. The Hawaiian Islands, we will overthrow Queen Liliuokalani, and we will take the islands. We're going to have sugar plantations there. When we fight the Spanish-American War, this is between the Empire of Spain and the United States. It's in 1898. It takes about 3 months for the American Army, the American Navy, to defeat the weakened Spanish Empire. Spanish Empire is just weak, 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 weak. They've been beat the crap out of by Napoleon earlier in the century, and now they really just don't have it in them to keep fighting. And the Americans have the Great White Fleet. Well, not yet. Our Navy's a little bit better. Even though it's not like the most modern, it is actually a little bit better. Teddy will really make it more modern. We're going to go ahead in the Spanish-American War acquiring Cuba. Cuba gets its freedom. Puerto Rico is going to get its territory acquisition to the United States, and same thing with Guam and the Philippines. They'll become territories. So because the United States is getting Cuba's freedom, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines become territories of the United States is positioning itself around the world very nicely. And they're starting to take places, and they're going to increase their economy even more. Canada is growing as well. You're going to get some new provinces that are going to be added to the Dominion of Canada. They're going to have a transcontinental railroad, and transcontinental just means trans goes across the continent. And the railroad's going to help facilitate trade. There is going to be this problem of the Anglo and the French rivalries, and it's because, remember, the British will take Canada from the French, and so you got a little bit of a conflict that's going to develop between the two groups. And so Prime Minister Laurier, he's going to go ahead and kind of reconcile the two groups, so he kind of gets them to make a compromise and see that, whether they're of the British descent or the French descent, they're all Canadians. It works. So Europe, when we look at Europe, Western Europe, there's going to be a growth of the political democracy, and you're going to see mass politics starting. Britain's going to have two political parties. They're going to have liberals, and they're going to have a conservative. And so we're going to get the Labour Party that's going to start in Britain by 1900. And the Labour Party wants the right to vote expanded to near full male democracy by 1900. So they would like to go ahead and get voting rights, suffrage expanding. They're going to want welfare reforms. So the National Insurance Act of 1911. And it's just national insurance, like in case something happens, like in case that you get hurt on the job, this is what it's for. So welfare means take care of the people. France and the Third Republic, you're going to see, because look at that, Third Republic. See, this is why you know that the French are kind of wish-washy. They're going to have universal male suffrage, and their government's very weak as far as their parliamentary system, and they have a lot of political parties. Whenever you have too many political parties, you get division. It's too many different sides to an argument. And so what's going to end up happening is you really just don't get very much done. Italy is also going to be united because they have been united. Remember, we got a united Germany and we have a united Italy now. So they're going to be geographically united, and they're going to have some turmoil. There's some sectional differences. I mean, you have to look at the fact that Italy has been ruled by different people. So the Italy that you know, it's been ruled by Austrians. It's been ruled by the papacy. I mean, it's been ruled by different kings with different belief systems. So uniting countries is a little bit harder than it sounds. And so trying to get somebody to kind of see that they're all Italians. And it really comes down to, in Italy, just some economic labor turmoil that's going to establish, because certain areas were just far more economically advanced than other areas. Central and Eastern Europe, there's the persistence of the old order. And the old order kind of means you've got these monarchies that still exist there, and they're not necessarily liberal monarchs. They're more of a stringent kind of monarch. So the German Empire under Bismarck and William II, or Wilhelm II. So remember Otto von Bismarck. He's going to unite Germany, and Germany is going to become a very strong industrial power under him. And he's definitely going to expand the military, and because of that, he does do a lot of wars. Sometimes, he picks wars with people, just to pick it and see if he can win some land, and it always works out on his part. So he really does make the German army the strongest army on the European continent. There's going to be a lot of rapid changes going on in Germany, and that's going to produce a society that's kind of torn between being a modern Germany or following the traditional pathway of Germany. And remember, anytime there's a lot of change and it happens really fast, you normally have a backlash in the country between people who are thinking that maybe you're moving away too quickly, maybe you're accepting this new life, this new society, without ever questioning it. So you always have people who will react to too much change. They'll call back for normacy. They'll call back for an older time, a better time. They become nostalgic. When Otto von Bismarck is the Prime Minister of Germany, he is going to be very active with his foreign policy, and he believes Germany has a place in the sun. And this is basically what he wants to do, is he wants to make Germany the great empire. He doesn't want Britain to be the empire. He wants Germany to be the empire that everybody admires, everybody wants to be like. And because of that, he really does try and do a greater democracy in Germany. But remember, Bismarck himself, he pretty much ignores his own parliament. And William the First, or Wilhelm the First, this guy's dad, he kind of just lets Bismarck do what Bismarck wants to do, because it seems that it always works. Bismarck is going to be able to get German nationalism going, and so you're going to see the Pan-German League. And the Pan-German League, Pan means like country, region, okay? And what it's going to do is it's going to kind of feed this anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism belief. And remember, the Jewish people, they're Semitic people, and so you're against them. And I told you that this is an old belief in Germany, and this is part of this nationalism, this pride, this extreme pride in your country, and this pride to prove that your country is better than everybody else, and your ethnicity, your race is better than everybody else. So the German nationalists, they're really going to feed this frenzy, and so you're seeing this kind of dangerous thinking going on in Germany. Austria is also going to have a lot of problems because the Habsburgs have taken over way too many nationalities and they can't unite them. And the government will I'm